The hum of the server racks was usually my lullaby, a steady, predictable drone that filled the cavernous silence of the corporate tower at 2 a.m. Tonight, though, there was a new sound, a low, almost imperceptible thrumming that vibrated through the soles of my worn security boots. It was coming from the new express elevator, the one they'd been installing for weeks, promising faster commutes for the high rollers who graced these halls during the day. Me? I was just good old Frank, the night watchman, making my rounds, checking doors, and ensuring the only things moving were the dust motes in the moonlight. Curiosity, they say, killed the cat. In my line of work, it usually just led to finding a leaky pipe or a forgotten coffee cup. But this elevator, it was different. Sleek obsidian panels gleamed under the emergency lights, reflecting my tired face back at me. Express, the sign read. Penthouse to ground in under 30 seconds. A challenge, almost. I'd been meaning to test it, just to make sure. It was up to snuff. After all, safety first, right? I pressed the call button and the doors, silent as a tomb, slid open. The interior was even more impressive. Polished chrome, soft, recessed lighting, and a digital display that glowed with an almost ethereal blue. I stepped inside, the air cool and still. Just me and the silence. I pressed the G for ground, and the doors closed with a whisper. There was a faint lurch, barely noticeable, and then nothing. No sensation of movement, no rush of air. The digital display, however, was a blur. It was skipping floors, all right, not just fast, but skipping. Then it happened. A flicker. On the polished chrome wall, a brief, grainy image. It was a woman, her face contorted in a silent scream, clutching a briefcase. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by my own reflection. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. Must be the late hour playing tricks on me. Or maybe the new elevator's fancy reflective surfaces were just a bit too reflective. I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. Just a trick of the light, Frank, just a trick. The elevator continued its silent descent. The floor numbers on the display a dizzying blur. Another flicker. This time, a man in a suit, hunched over a desk, his face buried in his hands. Despair, raw and palpable, even in that fleeting image. It was like watching a CCTV feed, but one that was playing at hyperspeed, showing only the most intense private moments. My heart started to pick up its pace. This wasn't a trick of the light. This was something else entirely. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was some kind of holographic advertising, a new gimmick for the express elevator. But the images, they felt too real, too raw, and they were always of people in distress, in moments of profound emotion. A woman weeping silently in a cubicle. A man shouting into a phone, his face red with fury. Each one a tiny, terrifying vignette, playing out in the blink of an eye on the elevator walls. The air in the car felt colder now, despite the lack of a breeze. I looked at my own reflection in the chrome, trying to steady my breathing. My face was pale, my eyes wide. I could see the faint outline of my security badge glinting under the soft lights. And then a jolt, a flicker within my own reflection. For a split second, I saw not my own face, but a distorted, almost translucent version of it, superimposed over mine. It was unsettling, like looking at a ghost in a mirror. I pressed the G button again, harder this time, a desperate plea for the ground floor. The images were coming faster now, a relentless barrage of silent suffering. A young woman clutching her stomach, collapsing to the floor. An elderly man, his eyes vacant, staring at a blank computer screen. Each one a tiny, horrifying glimpse into a moment of despair. The elevator was still skipping floors, but the descent felt agonizingly slow. I just wanted out. I just wanted to be on solid ground, away from these ghostly echoes of lives I didn't know, but somehow felt intimately connected to. The hum of the elevator was no longer a thrum. It was a low, guttural growl. Finally, the display settled on Gazi ground floor. A wave of relief washed over me, so potent it almost made my knees buckle. I braced myself, ready to burst out of this metallic coffin. But the doors, they didn't open, not even a twitch. I pressed the open button. Repeatedly, frantically, nothing. The soft, recessed lights seemed to mock me, their glow unwavering. A cold dread began to seep into my bones, replacing the earlier unease. This wasn't right. This wasn't how elevators worked. Then, the display flickered again, not to a floor number, but to an arrow, an upward arrow. The elevator wasn't going to open, it was going up. My breath hitched in my throat. Up? But I'd pressed G. I hammered on the buttons, every single one of them, a desperate, futile attempt to regain control. The elevator, however, was a silent, unyielding monolith, carrying me higher and higher into the night. The hum was louder now, a low, resonant thrum that filled the confined space. The images on the walls intensified, becoming clearer, more defined. And then I saw it. One of the flickering, ghostly images showed a person holding a security badge. My security badge, the one clipped to my belt right now. But the face, it was obscured, blurry, like a photograph taken through a dirty lens. A cold, clammy sweat broke out on my forehead. It was me. Or it was going to be me. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. I was becoming one of them, one of the recorded after images, trapped in this metallic purgatory. The elevator wasn't just showing me the past. It was showing me my future, my final moments, flickering like ghostly CCTV. The air grew heavy, thick with the weight of impending doom. I could feel my own reflection on the chrome walls shifting, becoming less solid, more translucent. A brief, almost subliminal flash of the penthouse elevator doors opening, showing a figure that resembled me but was slightly distorted, ethereal. It was a premonition, a horrifying glimpse of what awaited me. The ascent continued, relentless. The numbers on the display flashed past, higher and higher, floors I didn't even know existed in this building. My heart was a frantic drum against my ribs, each beat echoing the terrifying truth. I was trapped in a loop, destined to become another ghostly flicker on these polished walls. The silence in the elevator was no longer comforting. It was oppressive, a heavy blanket smothering any hope of escape. I closed my eyes, but the images were burned into my mind, a horrifying slideshow of despair. Then, with a soft chime, the elevator came to a halt. The display read, PH, Penthouse. My eyes snapped open. This was it, the final stop. I held my breath, bracing myself for whatever horror awaited me. The doors, with the same silent whisper they had opened with, began to slide apart. A sliver of light, then a wider expanse, revealing nothing. A deserted penthouse. Empty. Silent. The air was still, heavy with an unspoken presence, and then I saw him. Standing there just outside the elevator, waiting to get in. It was me, or rather, a version of me, dressed in the same security uniform, holding the same worn flashlight, but his eyes, they were vacant, hollow, like a reflection of a reflection. He was already there, already one of the after images. He looked at me, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. A smile of recognition, a smile of welcome. He raised a hand, a gesture of invitation. The doors of the elevator remained open, a gaping maw. I looked at him, then back into the elevator, then at him again. The realization, cold and absolute, settled over me. There was no escape. I was already part of this loop. I was already him. The silence in the penthouse was deafening, broken only by the faint rhythmic thrum of the elevator, waiting for me to step out, waiting for me to step in, and then only silence.